Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Marvel Spider-Man video walkthrough on spectacular difficulty. We're doing the mission Home Sweet Home, and we're going to be receiving no damage while we do so. So traverse through the streets, and let's get to these garbage trucks, shall we? My favourite tweet from yesterday, though, guys, was a really funny one, because it was somebody who couldn't understand why I had any problems with the guns because they didn't have problems with them. And they said, you literally only have to press circle to dodge them, which always makes me really happy when people use such an example, because my counter-argument to that, which I wanted to say but I didn't because it felt a little bit petty at the time, was that, well, in Ninja Gaiden 2, the only way to... Oh, sorry, in Ninja Gaiden 2, the only thing you have to do to dodge damage in that game is to press one of the triggers, right? And that's how you dodge, and that's how you don't take damage, and it's easy peasy. But if anybody's played Ninja Gaiden 2, you'll know that that is not the case. Which is pretty amazing. That's not even mentioning that I've got footage of me pressing dodge on one bullet and getting hit by another bullet, because he hit me at the end of my dodge, because he fires it in like a trident spread pattern. But the guns are just interesting, aren't they? They're a point of discourse, let's say that much, as we continue to look for our personal belongings. And there's a nice piece of graffiti there of Rhino. But this is the part of the game here, guys, which I think is a little bit slow. You spend the first half of this game searching for one bad guy, Mr. Negative I think he's called, who I think is the least interesting bad guy we could have been following, but, you know, the game does what it does. And then, when the prison break happens, the game becomes absolutely amazing, and it's just nothing but awesome after awesome after awesome. But to get to that, you have to do the slow burn of the beginning. And I kind of wish the prison break could have happened at the beginning, and then the whole game was just crazy villains coming after you all the time, because I think it would have felt a bit more high octane and a bit more fun for longer, rather than having to wait till the end of the game. But as far as establishing the characters and establishing what you do with Spider-Man and things, I think it does a decent job. I think the real reason why the pacing is the way that it is that they want to give the idea that, you know, Dr. Octavius was a good man before he had the implant, and then the implant kind of compounds on a lot of his anger issues and changes his personality. And that inevitable betrayal would perhaps be a little bit more emotive if you've spent some of the game understanding him and coming to like him. But the biggest problem with anybody that's seen a Spider-Man cartoon in the last 20 years, or 30 years I should say, goddamn, is the fact that we all fucking know he's Dr. Octopus and at some point he's going to go bad. So the entire emotional, like, connection and betrayal that is as inevitable as everything else is kind of a bust, because you all know it was coming, right? So it makes you wonder, why would they focus on that when it was just this inevitability? Which is kind of interesting. But that right there is a new move that I've picked up. When you press square and then you hold triangle, Spider-Man punches them, grabs them, and then kicks them over. It's a really good move for knocking people down and knocking other people down. One of the aspects of combat I might not have spoken too much about, which is really useful, guys, is the idea of crowd control. When you web somebody and then spin them around, you can knock their friends down if you have the right upgrades and things. If you hit them, you'll knock them down. When you're in the air and you slam a juggled opponent into the ground, he can knock his friends down as well. And you can use these techniques to make sure that people don't swarm you and stay around you, and it's really useful. And additionally, the move I've just purchased is really good for knocking people into other people and knocking them down, knocking people into walls and turning them into, you know, finished enemies, or even knocking them off edges and taking them down. But here is some scumbags with some crowbars, so make sure to slide under the crowbars and launch them, or throw items at them, or whatever you want to do. You can web them up if you choose to. The game's just given us the web grenade, which is one of the most powerful gadgets if you use it correctly. It's absolutely astoundingly strong, guys. It's one of those gadgets that you feel a bit guilty using. It's so powerful, so have fun with it, because it's kind of crazy. But another way of avoiding damage during combat, as the tooltip recommends, is using launch attacks. If you launch an enemy, it can stop you from getting overwhelmed. And there's truth to this, but there are enemies that can pull you out of the sky, there are people that can shoot you, and there are certain enemies that can hit your foot while you're doing combos and things. So the way to stop this from happening is when you launch somebody, if you hit them and then you press X and you knock them away, and then you drag yourself to them with triangle, you can be out of the way of a lot of the enemies doing your moves, and they have to cover distance before they get to you. So one of the safest means of doing juggles is to launch them and then square X and then continually follow after them. Even do maybe a swing kick afterwards. So square X, hold square, swing down and do the drop kick, knock them away, catch them with triangle, and then combo them away from everybody. That is a really, really good piece of tech to essentially create spacing and distance and deal with one dude at a time. But once again, guys, if you're comfortable with the combat, instead of doing all those inputs and going 9 miles away with swing kicks and dodges and things, just knock them over and web them. It's way faster, way more efficient, and way, it's so hard to ever do fancy combos when you can just wreck people with web.